Hello and welcome back to Curator's Pick. I'm Gretchen Small, Director of Programs and Collections at Deere-Wiman House in Butterworth Center. Today we're in the Deere-Wiman Gardens. The gardens as it's laid out today was, we believe, done in the 1920s. But I want to talk about a structure tucked back behind the flowers and underneath the pine tree. It's what we call the Wiman Girls Playhouse. Now, it didn't always sit here in this garden. We have two photos that show us the playhouse in the current location. They're dated 1956 and 1959. They show a brown-sided structure, different color brown roof, along with white trim. Not sure when it was painted green and re-roofed, but it's still in that same location. Now, it wasn't in this spot originally. We'll show you that location later. But when they moved it here, I'm guessing maybe in 1940. Let's take a closer look at the playhouse. It's kind of a precarious structure now. We know that groundhogs have done a number underneath the foundation, and we do need to reset the building. Funds don't really allow for that right now, but someday we hope to. What a nice little playhouse. When I was growing up, I had a playhouse on my grandma's farm that was the old chicken coop. It was fantastic, but this has two rooms. It had electricity at one time, at least when it was in the present location. The two Wiman girls were born in the 1920s, and so what a neat gift they got. Let's take a peek inside. Looks a little rough in there, but we're going to take a look. The ceiling's kind of coming down. I know our ground staff kind of keeps some straw in here sometimes, and our Christmas wreaths that they make, they usually store in here. Watch your step. But what a nice little playhouse where we have one nice good sized room and then a small room just off of it, I presume would have been the living room, kitchen area, dining, and then room for a bedroom. But the original wood doors, wood frames, of course the wood frames on the windows still there. Every little girl's dream. Not quite the way it looks right now, but definitely every little girl's dream. We do have a 1930s Lionel kitchen stand with a stove and cooktop. That was from the early 1930s. We found it in here originally, so I'm sure it was used in here. You could actually plug it in and cook things on it. Talk about total liability hazard for a little kid to use. But that was in here, and of course some doll furniture. There was a children's sofa in there that we found and removed to the main house. But it's seen better days. But let's go find out where it sat back in the 1920s when it was first built. So here we are over on the west side of the Deere-Wiman property. The main driveway leads up to the house, and then back this way it curves around where the Deere-Wiman swimming pool used to be and out to the 10th Street entrance. So kind of an odd location for the house. The first time I heard a story about the playhouse being right in this area was from one of the family members, one of Charles Wyman's daughters. She was elderly when she told me the story. She said she remembered the playhouse being down in this area. I had no proof of that, and I questioned whether her memory was quite right. I didn't have anything to back that up with. Then just about 8 months ago, I was talking to a woman who her grandmother used to be the cook for Charles and Patty Wyman. This would have been back in the 1920s into probably the 40s. And she remembers that if the Wymans were out of town, her grandmother would let her come to work with her. And the first thing they would do as a little girl, she'd run down to peek in the windows of the Wyman girls' playhouse. And she told me it sat about right here. That's the first time I gotten a confirmation for Mr. Wyman's daughter's memory. And that made me think, okay, it definitely was here at one time. I then pulled up those pictures that we have of the playhouse. You've seen two when it was back in the garden location. And then we have this photograph. I got to looking at it again. I placed this picture at the early 1920s, and I realized that I had mislabeled the location of this photo. I thought it was over at the back of the garden where we just were at. And then I realized, no, this picture was taken in this location. Winter time, so all these trees, the leaves would have been off, and you would have looked out and you could catch a glimpse of the river from this angle towards the Arsenal Island. It reconfirmed to my mind, wait a minute, this is the original location of the playhouse. So the Wyman girls, this picture was taken in 1926. Not long after that first picture, Tish Wyman was just a toddler, and Mary Jane looks to be about 4 or 5 years old. So it was initially built for Mary Jane, and then her sister came along and it became both of their playhouses. Now, the granddaughter of that cook, she told me that she loved to peek in the windows, and she remembers, of course, it's a little girl's memory. She said, I remember seeing gold-framed paintings. That stands out in her mind. So, makes me cringe a bit to think about were any of our wonderful gold-framed paintings originally sometimes hung inside the playhouse. So we're glad we still have the playhouse with us. Not in the best shape. We'd love to restore it someday, but we now have the complete story of where it once sat and then later was moved up to the edge of the main garden. Thanks for joining us this month, and we'll see you next time.